everyone, and welcome to this episode of Matcha Talk. I'm so very excited to introduce my next guest to you, the talented Eduardo Juarez Jr. He is an incredible animator, storyboard artist, and illustrator. You can see his work on my animated series, Bad Day Kate, and Kate's spin-off series, The Babies. I've had the great fortune to work with Eduardo, and it has been an absolute joy. I am so excited to share his story with you so you all can get to know Eduardo and him sharing his inspiring journey with you. So grab your matchas, everybody, and let's get to this episode of Matcha Talk with Eduardo Juarez Jr. Welcome to my Matcha Talk with the talented Eduardo Juarez Jr. He is an amazing animator, illustrator, comic book artist, and I have had the wonderful fortune of working with him on Bad Day Kate and Kate's spin-off series, The Babies. So welcome to Matcha Talk.
Thank you for having me here.
I have to say, I'm really excited to have you here because, as I said, I've had the greatest fortune to work with you, Eduardo, on Kate and the animatics that you've done, the storyboards that you've done have been absolutely incredible. And I remember when I first saw your work, and I was like, wow, amazing. Right, through Caricatura, which is your animation studio, which we'll talk about. And just the work that you've done has been incredible. And I want you to share so that everybody else knows your story and kind of your background and all of that great stuff about how you came into animation and your story. So I know that you have your matcha. So we've got our matchas ready. So let's go. So tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get into animation?
Well, I got into animation officially freshman year of high school. Well, actually before. Somebody went to my middle school, when the high schoolers go promote to middle schools, come to our high school and whatnot. And one guy came talking about my high school, Mount Pleasant, and they said, we have a magnet program over here. He talked about other programs, but the main one that caught my attention was the animation magnet program. And I'm like, no matter what, I'm going to go to the school. So I went there. From day one, freshman year, I started doing animation. But before that, I would do little flip books. I will do a little animation of Mario, because I was really into Mario Brothers. So it would be a little Mario jumping and throwing fireballs. But that was just a flip book. I had no way of actually recording it other than just flipping the book. And so when I went into high school, we had the pencil tester, and from there, I took off. Mm-hmm. There was no other career that I wanted to do other than animation.
Found that love.
Yes.
Yes.
But what got me really into the animation was The Simpsons. Since a little kid watching The Simpsons, that's where I was always curious about how is it that they do this? How is it that the drawings move? Mm-hmm. And as I got older, I started learning the flip book and other techniques, that handheld stuff that you can draw and just flip or rotate really fast, and you can see motion.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I'm just following you along. And so the flip book, and we love Mario. So tell me a little bit about, for those who are watching, or flip book, what exactly is a flip book, and why would you take a pencil test?
Well, a flip book is, you get a stack of cards, like flashcards, and you draw whatever you're doing, obviously on the same position, or, within the same position on the drawing, and then the fast motion of the flipping makes the illusion of whatever you're drawing that it moves. It could be as simple as a ball bounce. It starts in one corner, it bounces to the other end, or it could be a walk cycle, somebody walking, or anything that, requires motion, different poses. And then depending on how fast you flip it, things look like the illusion is that it's either moving really fast or really slow, depending. And then The pencil test, what it does is that it records every image. You put the drawing underneath the camera, obviously in the same position, and you put it, click on the pencil test, and then you take off the drawing, put the next one, and then so forth till you record every single drawing. And then once you're done, you push play, and then you see the motion on the screen.
Right. Yes.
And pencil tests are still used in a lot of studios.
Yes.
Test out, make sure that the animation looks right and the director likes it. What looks good, take it to final, which is inking it and giving a color or something. They say, what, this doesn't work. Make it look faster or make it slower, or do more, exaggerate the motion depending on the director.
And I often say, just to create an animation, I was talking to her more, it takes a village, right? A big village to get that animation done.
Yes.
Yes, it does. From, you start with, of course, your creative idea, and it's a huge collaboration between so many incredibly talented artists, right? You've got your storyboards, and then it goes into animatics. You add your music, which, is a whole other character to it. Then it goes into animation, and then there's just a lot of different process from that animation as well, from cleanup and coloring and all of that. And it's, for me, so wonderful to see everything just come to life through all of these different processes, right? So, and all of this creativity. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's magical. And just like working with you in, when we did Kate gaming, in one of the scenes for an episode, and also where she meets Jack at the cafe. And just going through that process together, like you said, from, the storyboard where you're creating it, putting it together, and then you're actually making it, flow and come to life, and then go into the animatic, and then it gets into the animation. So, talking to you, because you also have your own animation that you're doing, which is so incredible, and I want to hear the story about it. Lalo's World. So tell me about that.
Well, Lalo's World started as it is a comic book character. So when I was in high school, when I was already doing animation, I came across this artist or this comic book called Johnny the Homicidal-Maniac. And it was created by, I can never pronounce his first name, Johan Vasquez. Okay. Which he's the creator of Invader Sim. Invader Sim being it was a Nickelodeon cartoon that lasted only 3 seasons and it got canceled. But I mean, it created a subculture of fans. That guy actually graduated from my high school. So it's kind of cool. Like, wow, you got this guy who has his own comic book, and now he's gonna have his own Nickelodeon show, and he went to my high school. At his time, there was no animation program. So I got really inspired by his comic books. So that's when I decided, you know what? I want to do a comic book about this little character that I've been drawing the whole time. And so it became a comic book. And then I have slowly done little animations about him. Or not specifically him, but he'll be in it, like sort of doing cameos. My ultimate goal is to do an animated series about my comic book character. But as you know, like you said, it takes a village.
Yes, it does.
to do an animation. Yes. And if I ever were to do because I want to do like a pilot episode. I would need a lot of resources because animation does take a long process. And I've been trained in I guess we call it a classical way of doing animation. When I was doing animation in high school, we were still doing everything on pencil. There was no syntax. Everything was on pencil. And once everything was done, you will get, plastic sheets or cells, and you had to ink everything, right?
Yes.
So I came from that traditional animation. When I went to a university, which also had an animation program, by the time I got into the university, they were also still doing the traditional methods. Everything was acrylic paint. Like what you think of classical art school.
Right.
By the time I was done, everything was digital.
So
So
what was that transition like, going from, this classical style to digital? What was that like for you?
um, it wasn't tough. Um, it's just that I sort of feel like I got stuck in the traditional, and I love the traditional part because it seems more like it actually takes an artist to learn all this stuff that you have to do by hand.
Mm-hmm.
By the time everybody went to digital, it's sort of like they some of the students skipped that traditional drawing of live drawing and like perspective, because every perspective, everything now is done in the computer. You
Mm-hmm.
just put whatever into whichever software program they use, and even the software program will tell you the perspective, and it's kind of like, well, you're supposed to know that by hand.
Mm-hmm.
So
Although using digital and using the software, that you can create digitally is definitely an art form as well, because understanding the software, knowing what it can do and all of the things that it can do for you. But as an artist, it's definitely the more the more that you can create. So I'm happy that you're talking about like this traditional style as well as digital, and kind
yeah,
of how they both go together. And just, we always talk about learning and growing and being curious and being open to different styles, so that you have that understanding and that creativity. So I'm happy that you shared that.
yeah, and I mean, I use digital uh, animation as well. I'm not gonna say that
Mm-hmm.
I don't even
Yeah.
have a camera here. So what I do is like I still hand draw every single frame of all my animations.
Mm-hmm.
The backgrounds are all hand drawn. The only thing really use the computer for is to add color and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes effects if I choose to have some sort of effects, um, and obviously to render the final product.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
like every in all of my animations, everything you see, the backgrounds, the characters, everything is still hand drawn. I still hand ink everything by hand. I do get a lot of critics saying, "Well, you're killing more trees," and I'm like, yes,
Recycled paper.
yeah, well, yeah.
Recycled
So
paper.
when I draw something,
Yes.
I ink on top of it. I don't get a brand new sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ink it and then I'll erase the pencil lines, and
Right.
then once I'm done, I scan every single drawing, which it's a little tedious because it's kind of like doing the camera thing, right? Like you
Right.
press a button and then you switch. But I still use that traditional method of hand drawing everything, perspective. I have to measure things instead
Mm-hmm.
of telling the computer like depth and perception. I do it by hand.
Right. And that definitely takes a little bit longer, but is definitely makes a difference in your work. And I have to say, like, truly, your work is wonderful, and I'm so excited to work with you and collaborate with you, because it's a joy for me to just get ideas and go through the different scenes and the process with you. It's a lot of work, but like you said, it's just, there's nothing that brings you more joy. And I absolutely love animation. And for me, hearing the processes and how you go about it, and how you create this world that you do, and I'd like to talk about some of your other work as well that you've done, and what inspires you. What gets you all inspired and excited. So talk to me.
Well, the things that get me inspired is whatever makes me laugh,
Hmm.
um, or it's something that I would like to see myself, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm obviously a little bit. I'm also political minded, so I do a lot of single page comic strips about politics, whatever like gets me upset, or like last week, one of my monitors broke down, and I was like, so like I need this because I have two monitors. I
Uh
need
huh.
one for something else, and I was so frustrated that instead of like just walking around angry, it's like I gotta do a comic strip about this. You know,
Right.
like how I react internally.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I do that. The other stuff that I do is like actually right now I'm working on an animation for a radio station here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Um,
Excellent.
it's not a prank call, but it's like it's a caller that she called complaining about another caller. I guess she complains that they made fun of her.
Mm.
So the radio station starts making fun of this lady because she's complaining that they made fun of somebody else. So it's a long a phone call, but it's funny. I mean, ultimately, it's a
Gotcha.
phone call. So I'm doing that. This is actually the third animation that I do for this radio station, and it's funny how it came out to be because the first time I did it, I started Kickstarter, because I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
raise money to be able to produce more animations. Um, and I sent him a Facebook message telling him, hey, will you be, because you guys are in the San Francisco Bay Area, will you be so kind to, promote this Kickstarter on your Facebook page?
Mm-hmm.
So they got back to me and they say, no, we are not gonna do that. But how about instead you do a cartoon for us and we'll promote you because you did this cartoon for us? And I'm like, all right, cool. Like it's in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of followers, and yeah, sure, like that's
Right.
gonna be beneficial for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it, and they loved it. Right away, they loved it. I started getting more attention around here.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, when I went to the Comic Con here in San Jose, I had a poster that I did for them, and they were talking about like, oh, like they had this animation, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, I did that cartoon. And like, wow,
I
you
did
did
that.
that
I
cartoon? That
did
was pretty
that.
cool. You should make more. And I didn't tell them anything, but I was like, yeah, I would like to make more, but it takes a while because
Yes,
I'm
it does.
myself like the whole process of you're saying it takes a village to make an animation.
Yes.
Well, imagine it's just me.
I know.
And
Yeah.
in this case, it helped because they just gave me an audio. Like I don't have to come up with like dialogue or
Mm-hmm.
punchlines. It's already there.
Mm-hmm.
All I gotta do is just in a way fill in the gaps, which is the animation.
Right.
Because when you write your own stories, it's a long process to write a story, to make it funny, to make sure everybody likes it. In this case, they did it for me because
Right.
all they did is like, here's the audio, and just go crazy. Just do whatever
Gave
you
you that
want. Or,
freedom. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It gives me the freedoms. I don't
Yeah.
have to keep going back. Do you approve of this? You don't approve of this? No. There
Mm-hmm.
you go. So the first one was a 2-minute animation, which took me 4 months. And that whole time,
So wait. So let's go back there. So it was a 2 minute animation,
mm,
and it took you
4 months,
4 months.
yes.
Yes. And that's about the time. So how long, so that everyone understands, because as I said, earlier in my talks, I have this little GIF, and it has a finger and it points down and it just says animate and it goes to the computer, right? Because everyone's always like, when are you going to get another animation? I'm so excited to see more. And I'm like, it's such a process, right? So you just said that. So working, hours on a 2 minute, which is quite long, right? Takes a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, like I said, that one took 4 months, and that included the character design because that's really
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I did, so they could check on it.
Mm-hmm.
I had to draw the host of the radio show, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
I had to draw him, and I had to make sure that he liked it. Because I'm drawing somebody else. I
Right.
wouldn't want somebody to
Right.
do a cartoon of me and they make me look like some weird creature. I'd be like, whoa, no, that's not how I look like. So there's other people on the radio show
Mm-hmm.
that were also on the phone call, or they sort of did like a quick cameo, but I still had to design them to make sure that they all look like in the same universe.
Right.
Obviously, we don't want one character to look like he's from Ren and Stimpy, another character that looks like from The Simpsons, another character to look from the Animaniacs. No, they all gotta look from the same universe. And once they
Right.
give me the approval, then okay, cool. The only difference between that one and this cartoon that I'm working on, since it's the same characters, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to spend time doing the character design. except for the lady that's actually doing the phone call. She's obviously a different person from the first animation I did. But this one is 4 minutes long. There's more dialogue. So, when you're doing animation and there's dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
you have to also worry about the animation of the mouth.
Right.
Because it's very different when you're just animating some character doing an action, jumping, running, falling, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then imagine they're running, walking, falling, whatever. Plus they're talking,
Mm-hmm.
because then that comes into play. If you're doing an animation where a guy is just looking straight like that, front of you, then the mouth is one angle. But the moment the character moves to another angle, the mouth changes shape. So there's a lot of things to you have to account for.
Right. Right.
And,
Yeah. It is.
and so it's a long process. I tend to animate at 12 frames per second.
Okay.
A lot of TV animation, at least the 90s TV
Mm-hmm.
animation, they will animate at 12 frames per second because it's less work. That means 12 drawings per second. So imagine that, 12 drawings per second. Now multiply that by 4 minutes. That's how many frames you have to. So right now, the cartoon that I'm working on, it's about 4 minutes and 21 seconds. So that is, hold up.
And if you can't see, he's actually working on it
Uh,
right
it's,
now, which is exciting.
it's
Yeah.
about 3,138 frames that I have to draw.
Yeah.
Now I'm working on
Just a
two
few.
characters.
Just a few frames.
Just
A few.
and then so I'm working on two characters, and both characters are doing their own separate motions. So in a way, I'm drawing. It's sort of like doing two different animations, one for one character,
Right.
and another for one character. So it's a long process. That's why when people tell me, "Yeah, do another one, man, do another one," I'm like, "Yeah, I'll
Right.
do another one," but I'll be great if I could get some help or some money because
You
as
will.
as much
Yes.
animation, I want animation to be my full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. I have another job, so I have to do that, and animation is kind of like whenever I have time to fit it in, I
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if I could do this 24/7, then it wouldn't take me that much time. As soon as I wake up, I could start drawing, and then spend the whole day. The process will be faster.
And even though you do it, like, once it into you doing it full time, which you will, right? So because that's your passion and that's your love and that's what you are so talented doing. So it will, but even when you are doing it full time and you have all of that time, it's still a long process.
Yeah.
Right. So, because so you think of like that's 4 minutes, but if you're doing an 11-minute, episode, or you're doing, your half-hour episode, or however, long it is, it's a long process. And of course, working with the team where, you have your storyboarders here, and then it goes to animatics, and then you've got your animation team over here, and you've got your composer, and for your music and all of these different areas, that you then have a good production pipeline. So you
Yeah.
have where you can focus on it, which is what you were saying, when you have that support of actually being in production and collaborating with other artists to create this animation. So, which, it is definitely challenging to be able to do it just yourself, when in the time that you're allotted, and you end up, like I said, drinking a lot of matchas and really, really managing your time, but also being diligent in knowing, what, this is important to me, and it's my creative voice, and it's what inspires me and gets me excited. So I'm going to do everything that I can to really focus on that, right? Because you have that gift. Eduardo. I mean, truly, like you really, really do, and your work speaks for itself. And I'm excited to share that. It's going to be on my website, and also links to your work so everyone can see, what you're working on now. I'm excited to see that animation that you're doing as well. And I always talk about what's really, really important. So it's sharing your voice, making sure that you nurture that and that creativity, and taking care of yourself. So earlier you were talking, and I heard a little bit of someone in the background.
Oh, my parrot?
I think I heard your parrot. Yes, and I love hearing him, especially when we talk on the phone. I'll hear him like in the background. So is he just kind of, he's probably hanging out in the back, just making sure that everything's going well, and
No, he's in the kitchen.
oh, he's in the kitchen.
Yeah, so whenever someone's in the kitchen, he knows that means food. Food is gonna be
Smart.
nearby. So
Yeah.
it's his way of saying like feed me.
I absolutely love it. So you have to share a little background about your parrot. I want his name. He's just absolutely adorable, and I just love hearing him.
Well, his name is Daniel. We've had him since he was a baby.
Aw.
When we took him to the vet, the vet told us he's about 15 days old. And
Wow.
so 15 days before that was my birthday, so we sort of rounded up. Well, we share the same birthday.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
we've had
exciting.
him since when he had no feathers. And the way we picked him is because he was surrounded by other little baby parrots, but
Mm-hmm.
he was the tallest. And so we sort of asked the guy, like, is he gonna grow up to be like those big macaws?
Mm-hmm.
That's what my mom wanted. And the guy's like, yeah, sure, yeah, he'll grow up to be the tallest. And we sort of believe him because he clearly was the biggest baby parrot that there was there.
Yeah.
So we got him, and he didn't grow up to be a macaw. He's an Amazon. His official name is white-fronted Amazon parrot because they have white right here in the front.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about him is that he has red feathers around his eyes that make him look like he's wearing like a Raphael mask from the Turtles.
Aw.
And yeah, we've had him since he's a baby. Has flown away 3 or 4 times, but all 4 times he comes back.
Goes on his little journeys.
Well, it more like he flew away, and I guess as soon as he got out, like, where in the heck am I? And he just didn't know where to land because
Right.
nothing he saw in the outside was familiar.
Mm.
So the second time that he flew away, he was flying towards me, and I happened to be wearing a baseball glove. So when I turned around and I saw him, I tried to catch him with the glove, and he was kind of like, what the hell is that? So all he did was just fly over the glove, and he landed like 2 houses over.
Mm-hmm.
And we started screaming at him, and he would start screaming like you heard him. So we followed his scream till we realized, oh, he flew 2 houses next door. And we knocked at the door, and the family was like, yeah, there's a bird that just landed like right next to their pool.
Wow.
Yeah. So we walked in, and yeah, sure enough, he was just scared. You could tell by his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
His eyes are really expressive.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have your own pets, you could tell what they're thinking just by looking at them. Their eyes,
Oh, yes.
they don't have to speak. Just their eyes alone will tell you everything.
Everything. And that leads me, to family, and how important family is, and and those relationships, and like I always say, my husband, my babies, Rico, Zen, Patty, and Bella, they are my family, my life, and they just absolutely are my inspiration for my life and my creativity. They are my muses. So tell me about you. Like, what inspires you? Like you said, and I love the creative outlet. If something gets you upset or whatever it is, it's like you express it out there, right? But like what do you give to yourself so that you can go and create and do all of these wonderful things, whether it be working for your radio station, doing an illustration or storyboards on Kate, working on Lalo's World, these different projects you have coming in. How do you give to Eduardo?
Well, I inspire myself by life observations. Ever since I was young, I will always be observing human interaction.
Uh-huh.
To a certain extent, sometimes hypocrisies between people, so that stuff inspired me. Like, my comic books are about making fun of life, and I'm not saying making fun of my life. It's just life in general. Like, a lot of people that read my comic books, because I use people as reference. Like, a lot of my high school friends are in my comic books. I exaggerate their personalities because it's a comic book. I drew them exactly how they were. Like, these people are boring, so I exaggerate. A lot of people tell me that my comic books is an autobiography. I'm like, no, it's stuff about things that I saw. Now, some of it might be based on true events. Some of it I just straight up, exaggeration, because I gotta make the story interesting. So I go around about life, and if I see something, I'll save that memory, and if I have to use it for a comic book idea, I'll use it. Last year I went through a breakup, so inspiration. I did several pages about that breakup, so that's what inspires me. One of my comic books that I did was two of them was based on this camp that I went to back when I was a senior year in high school. It was called Camp Anytown. And you go into a camp for 3 days, and we would talk about, racism, sexism, all the bad stuff about society. And, it was about how to be positive, how to love each other, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that that's
absolutely
a thing. It's good, but what I noticed, like, it was such a it was a big hypocrisy. The first couple of days that everybody came back from camp, everybody was nice to each other, and I'm like, well, this is kind of weird. Nobody liked each other before, and now everybody loves each other. But after like a week, everybody was back to normal, like back to being regular high school students. And I obviously I did a comic book about that. Like, there was such a hypocritical thing about it. So that inspires me. Animation, same thing. Some of my comic book ideas that I've done, I ended up making them into animations. First of all, because they were short and sweet. Because, like I said, animation takes a long time. So
it does.
If you look at a lot of my animations, most of them are about a minute or less. Something quick and sharp. Because can't spend much time because it takes longer. And I want to keep making more cartoons. So I obviously added up to my portfolio.
Yeah.
Which the more better.
Right. And I want to kind of go back to what you said about, you went to this camp, everyone was super positive. They had that energy. It was like they came back and had it, and then kind of got back into, whatever habits or conversations that were, happening and it's so easy, isn't it, to like go to the negative and kind of live in that and dwell in that, than to keep positive and keep looking for things that inspire you, or, seeing the best in everything, or trying to be that positive change, so that, others get inspired by you. Right? So that you can say, hey, it's awareness. It's being aware of which energy you're feeding into. And I think that's what's really important. And that's why I love my Matcha Talks, is because, you are an artist that inspires me, and you are positive, and, you went through a difficult breakup, and you expressed that and shared that, and and that our creative voices are positive, and they definitely make a difference in the world. And I think it's just what you put your awareness on, that is most important, because this world definitely needs that positivity, and creating that, and being around art and music and people and conversations that inspire and allow that beauty into the world. So, and nurturing that, right, through difficult times, because that's not always easy to do. It's not
Yeah,
always
so
easy.
that's one of the things that I do express in my story is that, you know, life is not, well, I guess life is not as easy as I wanna use Disney,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how I always use Disney as a reference. Like, Disney makes it seem like life is, beautiful and perfect, but it's not. Like, there's struggles in life. And like my company town comic strip, I wasn't making fun of, like, you know harmony and let's love each other. No, if anything, it should be a natural thing. It shouldn't take somebody to go to a camp and to teach people to be happy with other people, or to interact with people with respect. It should be something that it should be an internal thing. Treat people like you want to be treated. So that's
Absolutely.
what I meant to say, like, with the hypocrisy, because you're trying to teach somebody about this in just 3 days. It's not gonna work. Uh, but life is full of struggles, and it's how people come out of the struggles that matters.
Absolutely.
You don't want to take the right path and say, like, I had a hard time, so everybody has to have a hard time, or I had a hard time, so I'm gonna teach people how to deal with that situation whenever it happens to them, if it does.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, a lot of things, like, about my life is, like, personally, I had a lot of struggles, and I never ended up after the outcome become like a really pessimist person. Like, well, if it happened to me, I hope it happens to everybody else. Like, no, I share my story. This is how it happened, and I give it some humor.
Yes. And I love that you said that. And for anything, it's like anything that you venture off to do something positive, whether it's 2 or 3 days, just to have that time to kind of be in that awareness is a good thing, but also to take keys and implement it into your life. But I'm so happy that you said that, because I wanted you to share with other artists who are watching you, maybe beginning, kind of, challenging some doubt, because I say, fear and doubt, they're sitting right there with you, but you got to, like, park them in the back. So what can you share with other artists that are, maybe need some inspiration, or something that you've learned on your journey as an animator?
Well, I would tell them, um, just express yourself. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. If you're gonna express yourself, like, something just wonderful happened, express it, whichever, music, paint, drawing. I mean, in the artistic world, there's so many mediums. You can't narrow it down to just one. I mean, you can even combine different mediums and make something original. Like, for me, it's comic book and animation. For somebody else, it might be oil paintings, or charcoal drawings, or
Right.
use buckets and make music. Like, art is this humongous thing that you can't just grab it with your hands. No, there's so much to pick from.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
like I said, I use my breakup as something, as reference to make something new. You know, Last week my monitor broke down, and I was, like, so upset, because, like, oh my god, like, I can't even afford to buy a new monitor, and this thing breaks down, and in the middle of working, like, oh, so
Oh, it's the
instead,
best time.
yeah. I remember one time I did this little comic strip, because because I even make fun of myself too. Like, I was in line for the movies, and I noticed everybody was on their phone. I even saw some guy riding a skateboard, like, on his phone. I'm like, why? How is he still standing and not falling? And I remember just making fun of them, and I think it was with my brother. And I was like, man, look at these people. Everybody's on the phone. Because when I was in high school, nobody had cell phones. The first time I ever saw a cell phone, I was in community college.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
And now you got little kids 2, 3 years old already know how to use the phone.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, I ended up like pulling my phone, like, oh, let me check my status. So it's kind of like I made fun of, I did that. Like, well, I'm here I am criticizing people, yet I end up doing it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a realization that, like, when it comes to like phones or Facebook, it's just something that you can't avoid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I make fun of that too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so artists can do that, make fun of themselves.
Absolutely.
Make fun of their family. Like in my comic books, I always make fun of my dad. My dad was not the greatest person, but instead of me just fighting with him in person, like, talking back,
Mm-hmm.
I just make fun of him in my comic book. He ain't gonna read him. He ain't gonna find out. So it's
Well,
something.
it's so funny because it is true. You have to laugh at yourself. You have to find humor in life and technology. I mean, truly, yes, our phones actually are like our little computers, right? They're portable. We can take them with us everywhere. Should not be driving or riding a bike with it. Definitely not. You should always be present in where you are unless you are stationary and able to be on your phone. But technology and social media is definitely an important part of today, and sharing, that you and I can collaborate with work and working together, and having this conversation, that we can share and inspire others with is pretty amazing. Hello.
This is Daniel.
Oh, she brought him in. Hi.
He's
Well,
like
hello.
interviews.
Uh,
Yeah, he
this
loves.
just made my entire day. Oh my, thank you so much. I was excited to have him on camera. I was like, oh, I hope he's there. Hi. Hello. Hi, Danielle. Hello. He's like, oh, I'm just, I'm over here. I'm hanging out. Oh, he's beautiful.
He's like, I
So
don't sing.
beautiful, Danielle. Oh, so yes, I just thank you so, so much.
You're
But
welcome.
I love it. Like we can be having this conversation. You're out in California. I'm here, out in Georgia, and it's just, it's like we were next door to each other. And thank you, for everything. It's just for taking the time, out of your busy day. You have all these different projects going on, to have this talk with me, Eduardo, because you truly are. I'm just so, so happy to be working with you, and look forward to many, many more, Matcha Talks, and collaborating together, and just that joy that comes out of it. And I love him right now. He's just doing his thing, which I love about animals, is they are so true to their nature, and they are just so beautiful, and they just bring out joy in my life. Like every
Yeah.
day they just bring me joy, and I can see, like, as soon as he came in the room, you're like, yeah, just like lit up, right? They just inspire you, and thank you so much for sharing and telling us about you and what you're working on, and definitely inspiring me. And I hope that you are enjoying your day, and you have some fun stuff planned after work, and taking some time to spend time with your family.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, anytime you want to have another chat, now that I've
Absolutely.
figured out how this thing works, then
I know. We've got it all settled. So we're good. And I'm super excited. I'm going to have Eduardo's website links on my website, baddaycake.com, where you'll be able to see his work, and what he's working on now with Lalo's World, and Caricatura Studio. So thank you so, so much, both of you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
thank you. And take care over there.
Thank you. Thank you, Eduardo. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode of Matcha Talk. I'm so very excited to have had this talk with the talented Eduardo Juarez Jr. It's been absolutely amazing working with Eduardo, and you can see his work on my animated series, Bad Day Kate, on Kate's website, baddayKate.com. And you can also view links to his bio and his work on my Matcha Talk guest page. So everybody, remember to grab those matchas and go do what you love and love what you do.